I am good to go.
Is anybody not ready? Or I guess, did we get confirmation Julian is here?
Yeah, Julian is here.
Okay, cool.
Oh, wait, but one question. Before we start, is it possible to get the link? Because I think like some of my teammates wanted to watch, and I was wondering how.
Okay, yeah. Let me send it.
Yeah. Thank you, and sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. You're totally fine.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second, then I'll let you know. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, cool. The current WTO patent system is locking in global cannabis monopolies as counterintuitive. The patent may not discriminate the place of innovation in the field, whether products are imported or filing international application. Patent applicants and simultaneously seek protection in a large number of countries. The strips ensure that intellectual property operate the same from jurisdiction and uniform standards. Under PCT, companies can file a patent in another country where they have no connections. Actually, now require a monopoly if inventor files a patent in every country. The inventor created a global monopoly, and Thailand proves the world is trending towards legalization by big pharma patents locking cannabis monopolies and crowd out local growth. As Killer in 21, the cannabis patents clear competition by a foreign company before they even venture into it. The cannabis market is being secured by foreign interests that grows more likely as more countries look to liberalize cannabis laws. The foreign company could force itself into industry with patent rights. The new business could not possess the resources to defend a lawsuit, and the big pharma leverages cannabis patents to block out competition and secure monopoly. That Dex medical marijuana access as Burnett and 20 winners in the patent system are those who have the most money. Everyone wants to use the patent to acquire ownership over a strain. A handful of companies can be demanding fees from the rest of the industry. Big pharma will harness big patent business of marginalized competitors. The evergreening tie-up producers and the time-consuming litigation extends big pharma's monopoly. Strain patents will affect the cost and access to medical marijuana. If big pharma obtains exclusive rights to strains, they can control access to an open, accessible marketplace for cannabis, especially for medicinal use. Depends on patent activity, and monopolies will kill cannabis biodiversity, which throttles medical marijuana advances in industry innovation. That's Barnett and 20. Without a variety of cannabis strains, production will consolidate into large conglomerates. The more strains are granted, as more patents are granted, growers will be increasingly dependent on seed makers. Growers will be subject to fees for use. A healthy number of varieties of cultivars are favored for advancing cannabis legislation. And the industry's continued growth. The patent system encourages the consolidation of variety to maximize profits. The biodiversity diminishes through the consolidation. Fewer strains can lead to limited patient treatment options. This significantly throttle advances in medical marijuana. The new cannabis landscape is rich with varieties. Strain patents lead to a large genetic landscape where innovation comes without disastrous effects on biodiversity, and monopolies kill market growth and disincentivize innovation. That's Galnelius and 20. Monopolies are developing in the cannabis industry. The competition will not flourish. Pure price equals less competition, which leads to higher prices, limited growth. Big businesses are flooding the market with product. If big business puts the little guy out, they'll have to raise their prices. Only free competition ensures fair prices and market growth, innovation, and product accessibility. And medical marijuana is key to resolving opioid pain reliever prescriptions. That's the biggest internal link to addiction and overuse. That's Blake in 20. The medical marijuana reduces pain. Less than patients 10 million have misused opiates. About 9.4 million misuse pain relievers exclusively. The 19 states declared the opioid prescribing rate 1 year before and after medical marijuana. 15 show a fall in opioid prescribing. Ohio down to 19.2%. Pennsylvania down to 17.8%. The other studies show that medical marijuana associated with lower opioid prescribing rates. 78% of the states are showing a reduction in opioid consumption. And next studies are bunk most classified the existence of medical marijuana in states. As Solomon in 2018 study reported states with legally protected operational dispensaries see reductions facilitate substitution of marijuana for opiates. 2019 study reported states with actual legal dispensaries see drop in opiate death rates. Show define marijuana access more broadly. True passage of laws is equivalent to success. The counted Arizona, where the first dispensary not opened until 2012, is a state with a comprehensive medical cannabis law from 2011. Hawaii is listed from 2001, but legal sales did not begin until 16 years later. Similar issues with Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts. Trevor did not classify states. Trevor classified states based on enactment of medical marijuana laws, even though sales did not begin until years later. Easily muddy the picture, and the opioid crisis risks massively destructive terrorism. Synthetic opiates can be weaponized and spread. This morale in 17. The authorities in Vancouver seized 1 kilogram of carfentanil sent via mail from China. That's the largest seizure today. Carfentanil is synthetic opiates, highly toxic. Seizure in Vancouver is enough to kill 50 million people. Extremely lethality, classified as chemical weapon. The largest produced in China. Also, drug cartels. The production of carfentanil can be moving here as well. Equipment found in the United States. Drug overdoses caused carfentanil, leading cause of death, weapon of mass destruction. Carfentanil is perfect terrorist weapon available in large quantities. Comes in several forms. Can absorb through the skin or through inhalation. That's quickly and is deadly. The al-Qaeda and ISIS acquired. I have an interest in acquiring WMDs and could use them if required. ISIS used chemical weapons in Iraq and Syria. The foreign terrorists use our own drug problem against us. And developments and attacks are coming now. Spurs interstate wars and non-state actors, which ensure escalation. Taboos eroded. Empirics driven tech and motive are here. That's Dick Whitville. In 18 18, the nerve agents have been deployed in taboos and dangerous collapse. Al Qaeda, Abu Kababa, and continue to fantasize the ISIL's deployed gas in Syria. Toxic chemicals have deferred. Everything is disputable. The blaming attribution hard to pin. Russia's propaganda that the British state was itself responsible. Sending this ambiguity was easier because the absence of any international body for Russia chemical weapons offer asymmetry level playing field against NATO. The Novichok nerve agent. Russia has tons of tiny doses block a nervous system. The North Korea hosts stocks of VX chemical attacks on most severe threat rate or casualties. Widespread long-term impacts is not just states. Salisbury advertisement to jihadists. They find themselves pathogens modified to improve their lethality using gene editing. Not a vast lab. They cared about amateurs to provide themselves in the total states to sow chaos, but not taking any blame. The broad distribution, low cost, and accelerated development of gene editing, deliberate or intentional misuse might lead to far-reaching applications that could kill millions. And nuclear war causes extinction. Ice Age start weapons war won't stay limited. That's Edward in 17. The climate scientists use much-improved models. The hundreds of thousands of nuclear weapons might be launched. Temperatures to drop 12 degrees. Last seen during the Ice Ages. Inhibit ecological destruction is expected to be similar to giant meteor responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. We would be the dinosaurs. It's unlikely that any exchange would stay limited. And chemical WMDs cause extinction. One incident is enough. That's Candor in 18. The humanity is being annihilated by chemical weapons. Mankind could be wiped out. GCF highlighted the most probable scenarios finished of the human race. Where in denial, new technology may seem improbable. And even critical world consequences cascade globally. The incident would be too many. The chemical warfare is about human existence. Always relatively cheap to make. And technological advances in genetic engineering and synthetic biology make it cheaper. Thus, the plan, the member nations of the World Trade Organization ought to delay patent enforcement for cannabis. That's calendar 20. The new use of cannabis should be accompanied by law stating that patents may not be enforced for some amount of time, after which patents may be acquired. Patent enforcement during the beginning stages of cannabis market development is difficult to justify. The incentives already exist. The duration should be less than half the full term of a patent. The exact durations exist the economic capabilities. Jurisdictions uniformly impose employment. This effective of a patent being called out but not enforceable for a term. And the plan solves by reining in monopolies without killing innovation. That's calendar 21. The entity filing the patent will receive under protection for invention, albeit with a shorter time window. The center file patent and disclose. There still exists a smaller window monopoly with a higher value. Actors utilizing technology and soon to be enforceable patents. They have clear notice. Actors can establish themselves and innovate their own means. This is the action that patents can incentivize innovating new solutions. Setting a time period ensures the market is not devoid of incentives with the initial grain rush, whereas off the solution bans monopoly persons cannot monopolize their inventions. Thus, and framing death is worst evil. That's Patterson 03. Death deprives them of future overall good. Ontological ensures the current existence subject. Independent calculation, murder, plus life. Death is a destructive type of entity that we are. Any rejection life can be warranted. This is the expression of ultimate value subject. Skip the next part. Eccentric that's that way. That's GPP 17. Compare peace war kills 99%, war kills 100%. Difference between 2 and 3 most greater potential for mankind. These years mean the efforts to hold civilized history. The excellent contraptions destroy the future. Future will be long and flourishing, have extremely large value. The excellent contraptions give future generations nothing. Excellent resources receive less attention warranted. Post unprecedented. Yeah, post unprecedented. You can mark the card unprecedented.
Okay. Open for cross.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. My first question is, how long is like the delay?
Yeah, so our plan is actually particular in that there's not a uniform delay, but rather that states in different jurisdictions should create their own. It's like they should create domestic policy based off of like the needs of their particular state. Setting a uniform delay would actually like harm the law because there's not like one uniform
Okay.
for every single
So
state.
there's like different states will delay at different periods then? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the calendar card specifies that the duration should be less than half the full term of a patent, but like the exact duration should be adjusted to the economic capabilities of each state.
Okay. And is there the ability to like delay again once like you've like put a patent and you're like, oh, never mind, or anything? Can they go back on it?
I don't understand. Like, can they retract it? Can they retract a patent?
Never mind. It's okay. My other question is, where do terrorists get chemical weapons?
Sure. So they can manufacture chemical weapons. They can steal them from rogue nations. The bill card indicates that they have secured them in the past, like Al Qaeda, Abu Kabab, etc., have already deployed gas in places like Syria, Malaysia, Salisbury, etc. Additionally, the Morel evidence indicates a case where someone in China sent like 50 million enough carfentanil in a single opioid package to kill 50 million people, which is like the same thing, which is technically classified as a chemical weapon. And it talks about how Al Qaeda and ISIS have an active incentive to secure carfentanil because it's such an effective bioweapon.
Okay, so your card is tagged that like one instance can cause extinction. Like, what brink is there for chemical weapons to cause this escalation if it's already been deployed in the past?
Well, it's been caught in the past. Our argument is that as chemical weapons continue to be refined and developed and like bioengineered to overcome vaccines, to overcome medicines, to make them more like sort of transmissible, make them more lethal, etc. That leads to sort of extinction eventually. Also, we have arguments that a chemical attack from state to state would create ambiguity that would incentivize a nuclear strike.
Okay, but why would a chemical attack happen between like states. If your card references
sure.
like
So-
non-state actors.
Yeah, exactly. So our Dick Whitwell et al. 18 card, after it talks about the terrorism stuff, it identifies that Russia has an active incentive to use chemical weapons against NATO because NATO has sort of because the United States has a sort of nuclear assurance with NATO in order to sort of counterbalance against Russia. Russia has an incentive to use chemical weapons, which are more effective, can decimate populations in NATO, and they are actually developing them right now.
I have one last question. Does your AF take a stance on capitalism?
What?
Like, do you take a stance on capitalism?
We defend the plan.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's all.
Sure.
I'm not taking any prep. I just sent the email, so let me know when it comes.
I have not gotten anything yet.
Yeah, no worries. In the meantime, the order is going to be one off and then case, and then there might be two separate off under, depending on how long it takes.
Two off after the case?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. I'm good. Is anyone not ready? All right, cool. I'll assume everyone's good. First off, the affirmative is a futile compromise in the battlefield of capitalism. Even solving IP protection offers all contradictions and inequalities in society, but only preserve labor is needed for capitalist economy function. Requatio 6. Impossible to implement in the way that benefit the inequalities and contradictions are built into the drives of capital and infinite, and there will never come a point where the inequalities will be lessened in the fundamental way. Inequalities will never be lessened on temporary basis. Shows rest on the best of the WO. The cap is a battlefield of compromise only to be ever made, but never for the labor and support of the changes to your permanent base. We need to terminate cap. Modern capitalism is directly by relationship with the militarism and war. Just opportunity for profit for the military industrial complex to export technologies overseas and post-war opportunity for business and rebuild, reach the role of balance about 15. The best chance is capitalism. Let's start with 3. Suffering causes have to be solving good state problems. The military convention are based on others. You need to get into politics. The war to continue someone another. It's not a cycle of war. Politics to another. No other. Much of the statement to irrationality was guaranteed if the war could be winnable. War that many human capitalists most powerful and unwinnable. Aggressively imposing the will of others. Others will yesterday. Weapons ever from which was the 21st century. So capable of exterminating because of weapon and capable of wars to make sure the government and other nationality like me to return the challenge to the face of ever than before. And capitalism creating international law to spread capitalism. Any agreements on a national level by countries comes with it expanding its interests with other parties. Yet power players can disregard those same laws as there's an unequal relationship between states, altering how institutional organizations work. 2017. I love critical spread of development and capitalism and protection. I declare the bourgeois led establishment of the new rules and institutions. I love the bourgeois and the bourgeois brought the public nature of the authority that declares the expression of the ceiling of the I love the bourgeois state. I love was like to do subscribe with the interests of state with demand and balance of force fluctuated with vital interests with every state and violating the law. A law trying to predict the depict as a no violation and as much more profit back to passive and country divided into civilized to semi-civilized. I love the law of the bourgeois. I recognize the states as equal rights, but unequal apparent agreements are a means of jealousies, protecting interests and preventing expansion of rivals, influence, and unilateral conquest, continuing the struggle which allows all competition existence and into international organizations. The struggle among imperialist states is a factor in institutions setting cap cause extinction, nuclear war, environmental destruction, and structural inequality. Round 5. Capitalists by liberal only pay a portion to keep out the wealth beyond the cost of paying wages and the cost of production. And the econ development only happens to profit put on it for social good and profit share. Thanks to so measures of the third reward was in the threats to the environmental continue to inspire with a lifelong use of techno, which is what the health education prosper and the millions of poverty and suffer homelessness and hunger and provides millions of profit. Resources by the myself people see no matter what the cost of investment, ideology, professional, unequal, and unsafe conditions. And the alternative is the communist hypothesis, not experiments like the hollow capitalist face to destroy faith in the system. Auto 4. A strategy for destroying capital costs being a capital structure training wealth and power meaning until there's something left. And the strategy to recognize capitalism must be destroyed out of funding attacking, becoming non-democratic, non-article, non-profit relation, over one capitalist relation, possible realistic. You think we can create a whole new world overnight? Is a foolhardy. Capitalists be replaced and refused to the war because accumulated capital abuse, brutality, and murder, active block and rejection of the system, the words of force compliance. No, they want to continue and capitalists to perfect periods to form become reform and peace the system. Our strategy, destroying capital crisis, whole lives, much all the way we're into extinction now. Moving on to case. First, something they advantage, we control the root cause of war, which will cause nuclear war. The evidence says nuclear war is bad, but there's no specific warrants why the scenario for war will occur in the first place. 2. Opioid terrorism should have already been triggered. It's been for over 4 years, and the U.S. is still as addicted to opioids as it was during that time. Additionally, marijuana has been legalized in many countries and even in most of the U.S., which means reducing patents, thus reducing the amount of opioids being used or produced by nations. And 3. No solvency illicit market means that terrorists can get medicines from there Unlikely that anyone after the war, someone be killed in the jurisdiction response anxiety, people perish each year, vastly smaller number, who died about the journey, some argue the terms may be more destructive than the article finds arguments on 1 thing and 7, no impact to bioterror. Let's know 14. But as anyone can tell, there's a method leading electricity belief that the person the large terrorists will be sold back by the sort of innocent. Over the large and the subject is past knowledge getting equal to the weapon is not even knowledgeable or necessary for the sailing of the storage estimation of residents, unit variants, and medical countermeasures, seemingly blunt the impact at 8, 0 risk of nuclear terrorism, waste 15. Weapon grade evolution, even silent reactor grade evolution, even constantly explosion weapon, no change different one of the plutonium is available, there's no addition to public use of present themselves to planet. Discounted probability to be discovered in translating the robot citation suggested an extremely low probability to destroy threats and no rate complexity. Now, second off, in-term debaters may not run delay plan violation. They do reason to prefer predictability. I can't predict how long delays will last or even if the delays will be implemented, then unimplemented, then implemented again, making net prep impossible for implementation of the affirmative ground. Ask and spike out of neg arguments linking to the act based on implementation because it is literally based on permanent policies and destroys limits, lets affirmative add delay planks to all asks and spec infinite amount of time to duration that make debate impossible. Vote for fairness and education, prefer counter in terms of reasonability is arbitrary and price. Judge intervention. Now third off, reduce means a net increase. Public law 87. Reduction is net increase and reduce means to make smaller, concise. Oxford English Dictionary 08. Make it become smaller, less than amount of degree or size and violation. The plain text says delay enforcement for cannabis patents, which does not result in a net increase of those patents. Blatantly untopical standards. A ground a topic decides like innovation. The EA assumes that there's a long-term result from the act because a reduction results in decrease of patents for long-term future. And their act would script those discussions. And B for research. The impact is fairness and education. And I think I'm just gonna waive my time. I don't think I have anything else. Yeah. I'm over.
Okay, are you ready? Okay, let's just start with basic questions. Status of the alternative.
Conditional.
Okay, is it a floating pick?
It's not.
Okay, let's talk about the T page first. Reduction says it means a net decrease or to make smaller. Why is a delay not reducing the amount of time in which a patent can take place?
Because like the patent will still happen, which means you don't decrease the amount that will like be at the end result. Just because you delay it doesn't mean it won't happen and still like stay at.
But why is that? But I guess like why where does the resolution specify how much of a reduction we need to make? Why is like a reduction in the amount of time a patent can exist not a reduction?
It's still not a reduction in like the total quantity of patents that will happen because like once the
why do we have to reduce the total quantity of patents that will happen? Where is that like warranted in the resolution? Why do we have to reduce the quantity of the total amount of patents instead of like the quantity of each individual patent, or like the time frame of each individual patent?
I mean, like the problem is at the end of the day, you're not reducing it. Like
we are. Like, I just explained how we are. Like I don't understand why that's not. Can you explain why that's not a reduction?
Why it's not? Because you talk about how like there's a time frame to prevent patents from happening, but the patents can still occur once like the time frame is over, which means, yeah.
Sure. Let's talk about the CAP-K. The communist hypothesis, what does it look like? What does the alternative look like? How is it materialized?
Okay, the communist hypothesis is like more of a question of ethical orientations, specifically how like within the debate space, for example, we need to hollow out different spaces to allow for like not just like communism, but like the ideas to move away from capitalism. So one instance,
it is. The first line of the card indicates that a strategy for destroying capitalism calls for emptying out capitalist spaces, capitalist structures. How do like communists like empty out capitalist structures?
Like, are you asking for like different methods? Or
so like is the United States government a capitalist structure?
Yes.
How do communists empty out the United States government? Like
first of all, because like capitalism is such a prevalent structure, we need to like empty out like spaces starting small because we can't just have like a revolution tomorrow and I can't fiat.
I understand that, but like I'm just wondering how like what does an overthrow of the United States government by communism look like?
We're not playing like that's not like I mean there's like different processes to go there. Like we galvanize through different groups.
Is it like an armed revolution?
I mean, we don't take a stance. Like, if you're trying to go for transition wars, like, I mean, go ahead. But, like, I don't think...
I'm just asking you what the alternative looks like. Like, what is...
Yeah, I was telling you that specifically it's, like, functioning and, like, with the in the debate round where we're...
So it's just a debate. It's just we should empty out, like, debate of capital structures. It doesn't have any action out.
I mean, like, debate is an example, but the fact, like, the Speech Act is still one
example. How does it overcome the state? Okay, I'll take that. Okay, 3 minutes. Order is case. The T and like theory argument, they will be grouped. So that's like the next. You can flow the 1AR to that like on either page, and then the cap K. I sent it. And can I just like get like affirmative confirmation whenever each of y'all are good? Okay. Josh, good. Julian, good. Stella, good.
I didn't get the doc yet, so give me 1 sec.
Oh,
sure.
sorry. I am good.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought you gave me a thumbs up. My bad.
Yeah, I just got it, so sorry it's taking a little bit.
For sure.
Okay, so you said the order was case, then like the theory, and then T, and then the cap K.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good to go.
Cool. Monopoly's coming now, which wrecks the weed industry. 2 impacts. 1, weed resolves the opiate crisis, which otherwise escalates the chemical war and extinction. 2nd, monopolies drive industrial monocultures to maximize profit. Nukes soil quality and biodiversity, which is existential. The plan solves every time a new type of cannabis is legalized. Patent enforcement for that type is delayed for a set period of time, and after that, patents can be enforced. It preserves a window of growth and competition before rewarding innovation. The line, no, the 1.0 Russian chemical attack will cause nuclear retaliation, but cap won't, which will be on the K page. The 2 is a terrible argument. Cannabis being legalized in the U.S., Canada, Thailand, European countries, etc. And opiate terrorism has already been attempted once, like a couple years ago, which means they'll try it again. So now the technology is getting better, and COVID is opening stuff up, making it easier to ship in chemical attacks. And no, the 3rd point, no, the opioids won't be coming into the U.S. because addictions will go down, which is our internal link, because people won't be ordering opioids in the first place. No, the equivalent evidence, the equivalent argument says they will use them and provides examples, and Morel shows instances like in Canada where carfentanil has been tried. It's happening out, and we have gotten close, which means it's only a matter of time before it actually works. Terrorists don't care about biological weapons conventions, and we have evidence Russia is stockpiling chemical weapons right now, which shows which shows how they're violating conventions. We already answered the legalization stuff above. Mueller doesn't matter. Our arguments about future attacks of chemical weapons make them more effective. Lensos is outdated. Again, it indicates that chemical technology is getting better, and they consider that states are developing, which means that these state chemical attacks will trigger the impact regardless. Not going for nuclear terrorism. The T page. 1, IP delaying patent enforcement reduces the window of time in which a patent can be enforced, which reduces patent IP protection or patents being acquired by a certain period of time after a new use of cannabis is created. 2nd, counter tradition reduce means diminish. That's Freeman 99. Reduce means to diminish. Prefer. 1 is topical literature. The advantage proves that literature controversy, and it's unique given the global cannabis legalization trends. Efforts inclusion to emphasize deep research and broad topic education, which outweighs the other world impact. 2, debatability. All reductions of IP are temporal, since IP by definition for a time period, i.e. the WTO COVID waiver, that actually be able to shorten the front end, just not the back end. 3rd is over limiting. There's basically only 2 laws on the topic, so you should reward innovation to prevent stale debates. 3rd, 4th, functional limits and generic solvency advocates inherency price, scope, IPP, and smallest was the case, and see the distribution guideline, health diplomacy, or innovation. 4, no ground loss or limits explosion, including cannabis patent delays, doesn't substantially increase the research burden for use. Reasonability, they didn't warrant why reasonability is arbitrary investigation, and even if it is, it's best to draw it along lines that reduces the arbitrary nature of LD theory, the asinine nature of LD theory. The K. 1, framework determine the defines desirability through periodic consequences. 8 is fairness versus winning research, since they criticize infinite random things. B is outweighs the basic competitive game. It wins in the last, they can still weigh to assess the app causes and fosters equal engagement on the case. C or refs are just find the context of plans consequences. They're intruding the 2nd, permitted. There's no link. That 1, the app is not ILAW's domestic policy that delays enforcement of their own patent waivers, which means the ILAW link is just not applicable to the app, and we don't try to reform trips. That plan is actually a blatant violation of it, which means there's 0 link to the critique. 3rd, crackdown just said any alternative fails after the case. What the hell are a bunch of crusty communists going to do against the military's F-35? Small incremental reforms like the app are necessary to make political movements more effective. 4, actually skip Gopnik. 5, make Adam Smith proud. 8, capitalism is good and sustainable. That's Harvard. In 20, GDP was about twice as big as 2040 rate turns us about 34 of growth of our country. GDP over capita is highly correlated with access to food, healthcare, healthy education, better freedom of choice, for discrimination, growing of world GDP, expansion, human flourishing, link between economic activity, use of material resources, not as obvious, seemingly insatiable desires, enough for you and a person to look out to save money. Will develop ways to use less than compared to good entering the economy and ways we can follow the agricultural aimings or product some return range emissions fell 22%, and so the economy growing by 58%. And neoliberal globalization reduced the frequency and severity of wars by a factor of 10. That's Moody 14. Trade makes a significant difference in trade. Trading works to by trading. Alliances creates financial incentive to keep peace. Trade motives and essential avoiding wars and sending tribal networks. Finding correlate major global trends. Interstate wars decreased nearly tenfold. Market at tenfold. B's capitalism. CCS. That's got 18. Power engineering. Technically lower cost. 94 per metric ton of CO2. They produce synthetic fuel. Improve consequently help create a market once negative emissions seen as possible way to make vast portions of political will create a market of CCS will emerge with powerful advocates like Bill Gates leading the way the industry. Vice versa, technological fix or climate crisis, government engineering make more money than they ever could dream of. Creation of CCS industry returns from climate change politics, and CCS is the only way to stay below 2 degrees and solve warming. That's Saganas and Peters 20. CCS critical meet to Paris. The critical meet 2 degrees. Hundreds of scenarios show CCS was a crucial role. Emissions must be net zero. CCS helps to achieve zero, reduce the direct emissions, and create negative emissions. In addition to conventional mitigation, most scenarios are not able to get to zero. To get to net zero, residual emissions must be counteracted by CO2 removal and. Yeah, that's fine. Marked the Mooney 814 card at interstate war has decreased nearly tenfold.
Okay, wait. Oh, so you got to the neoliberal globalization, but you didn't get to the capitalism key to CCS?
No, I read Scott and Saganas and Peters. I just marked the Mooney 14 card at interstate war has decreased nearly tenfold.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Sorry, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're good.
Is it 5 minutes or 4 minutes? I've heard different things in each round.
It's 4, I think.
Oh, 4. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. Start my problem.